Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to the Annie Harris football channel, and we are back with some more transfer news and some more chat about Scott Twine, who is reportedly set to join Bristol City on an initial loan deal. I was just speaking to Ant off air about this. We thought it was a loan with an option to buy, but the Athletic have come out and said it might not be. So there's still a little bit of uncertainty about that. But the main point is Scott Twine is set to leave Hull, who he's on loan at, and go back to Burnley and come to City. Ant, who is I don't know how to do this. There above Nathaniel, who's at the bottom, and Nathaniel's at the bottom. So yeah, both from the Two Hull and Back podcast. I'll link all their stuff. They're a good watch. I'll link all their stuff in the description and on X as well. So Ant, I'll start with you. What are your initial thoughts? What was your thoughts when you saw this news and that was set to be kind of in the works and the City were,
Well, at first, with the person who broke the news, with it being Nixon and not being the most reliable of journalists on usually gets our stuff wrong. When I first saw it, I thought, nah, surely not. Especially with obviously the amount of players that we're missing at the minute, we're already threadbare as it is. So even if they were keeping him, more as a squad depth option, I thought, there's no chance to let him go to another championship team. But realistically, when you think about it, it's out of our hands. If, Burnley recall him, we can't do much about it if the clause is there. With us bringing in players like, Fabio Carvalho, is realistically his game time's going to drop. And I can see why Burnley probably have decided to do that. They've probably been in talks with Rosinia, when they've seen reports of us going in for Fabio, then, they're going to be like, well, what does that mean for Scott Twine? And then that's probably where Bristol City have then been offered the chance to thingy, because they've said, oh, look, his game time's going to drop at Hull. Are you guys interested? For me, I'm not too disappointed, because, and I think a lot of Hull City fans will echo this sentiment, that we've not really seen the Scott Twine we thought we were going to get. He's been promising in games, absolutely. But I can probably count on one hand the amount of times where I've come out of a game and said, you know what, Scott Twine was really good today. And, when we're in January, that's probably quite a worry. I know a lot of times he's been played out of position out wide. He's not really as effective off the left. He doesn't really have the pace to do what we want to do with the system and the wingers. But his link-up play is good. Set pieces, probably not as good as we expected to be either. But, there's a player there, you can tell. He was getting better, especially when we played him in that more natural number 10 position. He was getting to periods where he looked consistently good in that position. And when he had a good run there, he was improving every game. But realistically, like I said, we're bringing in Fabio Carvalho, and we've also got Ozan Tufan and Adama Traore to come back after AFCON. He's not going to play very much in that number 10 role. He's not going to play out wide above Philogene. And if we get Benson, Zarori, Kent, whoever we're going for on the other side, he's not going to play there either. So I can understand why he's gone back. And also, if we were to try and match Bristol City's apparent fee of between 2.5 to 5 million, I don't think I'd like to see us spend that kind of money on Twine. I think that money would be better served on a more proven championship player, because we've not seen a 2.5 to 5 million pound player there for me. But I wish him luck at Bristol if he does go.
Nathaniel, would you echo a lot of what Ant has said? I know you were nodding in agreement for a lot of that.
Well, it is a bit of a strange one, because we were so desperate to sign him, not even last summer, but the summer before that. And depending on who you believe, he wanted to come to us rather than Burnley. But for some reason, we couldn't get him on a permanent, but we would have been at least second choice there. And then we finally got him on loan, came in with Jadon Philogene, who is a £5 million player. And yeah, if we're spending that much money, it should be on someone as good as Philogene, and clearly he isn't. But he's not really lived up to the hype. He's been a solid player. He started sort of poorly for us, has scored a few goals since. But yeah, I think the main thing is that with Liam Manning coming in, who he worked with at MK Dons, I hope that's right. And we've got Tufan, Carvalho, and we desperately need to start signing and playing actual wingers rather than him on the wing. It makes sense for Burnley to want to get him, if it isn't a permanent deal, at least 6 months or however many months of the season left, at a team where he will play in the middle. And I suppose you've lost Weimann, who sort of was a number 10. So from that perspective, it makes sense.
yeah, to be fair, Vyman wasn't really playing quite a lot. And
I saw that he sort of lost, a lot of his quality in that last season.
Yeah, he's now gone to West Brom, and we've got Taylor Gardner-Hickman on a permanent as well. So you've both mentioned the fact that he's been playing out on the left. City so far haven't really been playing, haven't really been playing with number 10s or a specialist number 10. And well, we've all thought about it a little bit, and we would compromise quite a lot. So if we were to play Twine in that number 10 position, which we think is the strongest position. So in terms of, I'd say, how much more effective is he in that number 10? On the eye test, Nathaniel, I'll start with you on this. How much more effective is he in that number 10 position? How much do you compromise when you put him out wide?
Yeah, that's extremely puzzling that you've said that the main reason, because he probably would play on the wing occasionally here. So it's very surprising that he wouldn't be playing at number 10 through the middle at Bristol City. So that's peculiar. I mean, and you said that he's much better at number 10. Yeah, I mean, we've seen him play at number 10 so little, and I wouldn't exactly say that he has played incredibly well in many games. So I'm not sure if maybe he would be if he got a run in that position, but he's sort of been wherever we've needed him. Even in the FA Cup, he played sort of as a number 8 almost. I'm not sure whether we've really seen him enough in the middle to know whether he is much better. I mean, he's not that quick of a player, and I've not really, now that we talk about it more, because he's played most of the season and we should have expected more from him. So I think the more I think about it, the less disappointed I am about the signing. But
you're walking yourself into a corner now, aren't you?
Yeah, there's still definitely a player in there, but yeah, if we saw him in the number 10, I'd be able to give an answer. But yeah, that's his preferred position. So yeah, why would you compromise things if you had a Twine in number 10?
Well, as I said, we haven't really been playing with a specialist number 10 for the whole of the season. It's mainly been Jason Knight, who's kind of tried to occupy that number 10 or advanced kind of midfield position. It's kind of half work. He's not really added much of goal threat, and he's not really good enough to add a goal threat. Really, he's not got that clever kind of don't make comparisons, but like Frank Lampard, he just doesn't have that. So he's better in that number 8 position. Twine, if I think our midfield is very good and very balanced. So if he was to play in the number 10, one of our midfielders would have to get sacrificed, because we can't play him out wide if he is that ineffective. So then that would mean our midfield is disrupted, and if we play a double pivot with someone like Anis Mehmeti on the left and Mark Sykes, Anis Mehmeti in particular, who doesn't really track back very well, we lose that kind of defensive nous in centre midfield, which could, again, loses a lot of balance in there. So not overly sure how he's actually going to fit into this side, because I think we've been crying out for someone like Scott Twine, to be honest. We've linked with Finn Azaz earlier in the window, someone who just plays in that number 10 position, can create quite a lot of chances. But I'm not overly sure. And I want to ask you about how why hasn't it worked out for him at Hull then? I know you mentioned quite a lot of he's been playing out wide, but compare Twine to that MK Dons Scott Twine, and yeah, you could argue injuries at Burnley and whatnot, and didn't really get a chance in a very good side ultimately. It felt like this was the perfect system for him under Liam Rosenior to go ahead and just flourish, really.
Yeah, I think in an ideal world, given the fact of our current injury crisis and a couple of players going to AFCON and whatnot, I think in an ideal world, Twine would have played in sort of that number 10 role all season. I think that's Rosenior planned to play him. I mean, I think with that, the system we play requires the wingers to be, quite quick. You need to be direct, run at defenders, trap back, work hard. And unfortunately for Twine, he's not blessed with the most pace. So I think when he's put out on the left, our system kind of becomes a detriment to him, because he isn't sort of the right player to play wide left in our system. I think because what is interesting, I believe he played off the left for MK Dons when he had that amazing season. So it shows that you can play him out wide and get the best out of him. But I believe obviously it would need to be in a way that gets the best out of him and doesn't require him to obviously be trying to get to the byline. Just let him cut in more often and have a pop. Whereas we're obviously primarily trying to pass the ball. So it's like Nathaniel said. Realistically, I said he played better in the number 10. He didn't really ever come out of a game looking like the outstanding player on the pitch. He's just better performances, which were few, were in that role when he got the chance to play there. But injuries and whatnot have just sort of, hindered that opportunity for him to really be there. And we've just had to ask him to play loads of different positions. And he always does it, which is a good thing. He's a player who's always willing to go there and work hard and try. Just unfortunately, he just falls short of what you expect him to be. And I think that's probably the best sentence I can give for Scott Twine is there's certainly a player there. We've just not seen it. And I think that's why the vast majority of Hull City fans won't be too disheartened that he'll go to Bristol because, if it was a Scott Twine we thought we was getting, he probably wouldn't have even been dropped in any games. But it's just unfortunate for him that with maybe that injury at Burnley did sort of curtail his momentum a bit from that MK Don season. He's not fully recovered yet, but there is certainly a way to get the best out of him, and obviously Liam Manning was the guy who did that, so he might be a lot better at Bristol than he was with us.
Nathaniel, I've just looked at it, and he's made 20 starts in 25 appearances, so he's certainly not had a chance. He's had more than enough chances in that system, and he's definitely got used to playing, hopefully for him, and playing in that Liam Rossini system. So is there any blame on the actual kind of maybe the system isn't quite right for him? Even maybe we're a little bit blinded by the fact that maybe Liam Rossini's we all thought Liam Rossini's system was going to be perfect for him. Maybe it wasn't quite that.
I'm not fully sure. I mean, because of course you can debate things, but the whole reason that everyone at the club was talking about how we were able to sign him, because of course most other Championship clubs wanted to sign him on loan from Burnley as well, was because the system was supposed to be perfect for him. And that's why he was so excited to potentially join on a permanent the year before. I think it's just mostly because he's essentially been in a one-on-one battle with Adama Traore all season, because we haven't had any fit wingers except for Lejean, and two fans played in the middle. So it's always been who's going to play on, the other wing that Philogene isn't on. And that could have been Adama Traore, but pretty much it's always been Twine because he's probably a better player than Traore, or at least a tiny bit quicker. But yeah, he struggled on the wing. I've never really expected much to happen when he gets the ball. And he has improved in recent weeks. He had a run of 4 goals in 9, which is pretty decent. But yeah, it's if of course it is a loan deal, but if Bristol were rumoured to be wanting a permanent option or to spend 2 million on him in January, or roughly however much the money it was, it's very interesting to know where he is going to fit into the Bristol team, because Bristol, no offence, but they're not a parachute payment club. They don't usually spend millions on players. If they're spending or wanting to spend million on Twine in January, surely he's going to play. So are you surprised that that's the area of the pitch that Bristol are looking to strengthen?
Well, no, I'm not surprised that is the area we're looking at. I'm just a little bit more concerned. Intrigued, I'd say, making this kind of small sacrifice for a better game in a way. Maybe dropping someone like Mehmeti, who a lot of us like and think there's a player in there similar to Twine, a bit frustrating, not quite met the levels we expected of him.
To be fair, that's why we're letting him go. I feel like we must have had some sort of say in what happens. I'm pretty sure that the potential gain is that we have Carvalho, but the potential loss is that Carvalho doesn't adapt as well to the team as Twine did, which wasn't amazing, but he played every game pretty much. So yeah, I'm very intrigued to see who comes out better of this, Burnley or Bristol or Hull, because it's a bit of a saga. Not sure, not 100% sure at all, but should be excited, but not as excited as perhaps we were.
I think it's just a case. it's a case for me. I think it's just one of those stereotypical where a manager has worked with a player before, he's been absolutely phenomenal for him before, and he's gone, we need this lad. And I think that's just
Malik Wilkes effect.
Yeah, he's gone. This guy was amazing for me, and I think he'll do it again at this level. Which obviously, as a Bristol fan, I'd be looking at. I'd be speaking to Burnley fans, and I'd be speaking to obviously Hull City fans about his performances at this level, because obviously he's done it at MK Dons, absolutely smashed it at League One. But at the Championship, I just think he's left a lot to be desired. So for me to be gambling with a few mil on him, if that is obviously the case, so you're not just having him on loan, that it's probably a big risk. But like I say, if Manning knows how to get the best out of him, then he's probably seen it as a gamble worth taking. And if it's loan only with an option, then it's risk free. If it don't work out, you don't have to buy him, do you?
Yeah, I think that's a fair point actually. He hasn't really proved it at Championship level, even in two good Championship sides. He hasn't really done it. So maybe it's the right step for him to go back to someone who knows him inside out and knows the best out of him, and had his best season of his career so far that was under Liam Manning as well. And I'll go back to you, I suppose. So for Hull then, obviously you both have mentioned Fabio Carvalho. I'm kind of getting vibes that this is not going to be too much of a massive loss, and that maybe short on numbers a little bit, but in terms of quality, he's not really going to be a massive loss.
No, I think in terms of impact, he didn't really make too much of an impact for us to miss him that much. I think 7 goal contributions all season, which is, it's average for a Championship player, but like we say, not quite what we expected from him. I personally expected a few more goals. In games, he's not even really had that many chances. He scored one free kick. I think one was a follow up from another shot. So he's not really created that many chances on his own and scored them. And he's not assisted that many either. I think it's only the 3 assists and obviously the 4 goals. So in terms of his impact in the side, when you compare him to like Tufan, who's on 7 or 8 goals, and then you've got Adama Traore, who's far better in the middle than he's on the wing. He's going to be an option for there as well. And then, like we say, we've got in Fabio Carvalho, who's definitely not come here to not play, so he's going to be in that number 10 position. And we have all seen the quality that he's had at this level in the season he had at Fulham, and obviously a big move to Liverpool. He's got those credentials already. Just unfortunate for Twine that obviously, like we say, in terms of the impact, the time he's had at the club, especially the amount of games he's played, he's just not really been able to put his stamp on, obviously, or any real claim as to what he can do and command a starting area in that team. Because I do think that Rosinia would not have been looking to sign someone like Carvalho if Twine was doing what he intended him to do. So yeah, it's quite bizarre. I don't think we'd have kept him as a winger, even just for squad depth options, because he's like we say, he's just far less effective on the wing, and he's just not got the pace for it for me at this level. I think you need to be quite quick to be on the wings and be able to beat these rather physical fullbacks that, as we've seen with Harry Vaughan, we love Harry Vaughan as a young player. When he tries to tap it around the fullback, he's just not strong enough to get around the other side of him, and it's similar with Twine. So be interesting to see how he does at Bristol and where he plays, because obviously Manning's got a plan for him if he's not really playing with a number 10 per se. But yeah, no, his rare few decent games that he had for us wearing that central role behind the striker, almost as a second striker.
Yeah, but we have to talk about his set piece taking, because that was the most exciting part about signing him. We haven't had a set piece taker for a few years since we sold Kamil Grzycki. So the sort of set piece scoring, I'm happy to be a little bit more lenient with that. Some of them he did blaze over the bar, but scoring for kicks is difficult. That's why Twine, who would score an average of only 3 a season, 3 is not a very big number, but that makes him one of the best takers in the whole country. And he's got 1, so maybe he would have had 3 by the end of the year. But unlike Ward-Prowse, who people were I was comparing him to, he actually did have a better, and because Ward-Prowse hasn't scored 1 this year, he still has the best sort of ratio in England of scoring them. His set piece delivery for corners and free kicks, atrocious.
Yeah, he came with a label of a set piece specialist, and it became kind of a running joke for him. And when he signed us, that weeks into it, you're thinking, eventually it's going to click for him, kind of thing. And No, it didn't. Like you say, the delivery from set pieces has been.
'Cause
We just don't score them, and it's because of things
the
like that.
only player I've seen that, because you want to, I think like Beckham, whip it in with curl and fizz. The only player who's ever taken set pieces for City that didn't do that but was good at them was Tom Huddleston, who would just sort of loft it in. But I generally think most players that do this sort of lofting lob like technique like Twine does on corners is rubbish. I don't think it works. And
It's easy to defend against, isn't it?
Yeah. So if you've got a set piece taker already, I wouldn't necessarily put Twine on corners. On shots maybe, but yeah.
You make a good point about James Ward-Prowse, because I've seen both James Ward-Prowse, so I'll see him tomorrow as well, unfortunately. But I've seen both James Ward-Prowse and Scott Twine play against us. I genuinely have to say I was more petrified of Scott Twine's set piece deliveries.
Well, statistically, that is correct.
Statistically, that's correct. But just on the eye test, I was a little bit more like, oh, that's in a decent area. Just get it out, and safety first and whatnot.
It's the biomechanics. That's how it's been explained to me. It's the biomechanics. James Ward-Prowse, his technique, if other people tried that, they'd break their leg. Apparently, that's true.
He's definitely going to score now, James Ward-Prowse, tomorrow. From a set piece as well.
I was thinking when we're West Ham in the Championship, but it's the magic of the FA Cups.
Christ.
They get nice trips to West Ham, and we have to play Birmingham
again.
It's a quite nice trip to West Ham, actually. So if there is an option to buy, this is the last question from me to both of you. If there is an option to buy, 2.5 million is supposedly a compromise we've kind of reached. I'd say about 3 if we're pushing it, maybe with the loan fees and whatnot. Is that fair? Maybe not for the performances he's put in now, but maybe for the future.
I think for me, in terms of an investment, £2.5 million you could probably justify on the basis of he's going back to a familiar manager who might get the best out of him, and he's still only young. So, and like as we've said in this, he hasn't been brilliant for us, but you can tell that he can be. We've just not seen it yet. So if you can get Scott Twine to that point, absolutely £2.5 million is probably a risk worth taking. But I think anywhere near the £5 million mark, I think for a Championship club it's insane for what he's shown at this level so far. Massive gamble, but like I say, you'll probably have to make your own minds up after you've seen him play for a few games.
Yeah, I mean, we've spent £3 million on attacking midfielders, I think, twice in the last few years. It would certainly be pretty much exactly halfway between the £3 million we spent on Tufan, good £3 million, and the £3 million we spent on John Terrell, bad. So probably somewhere in between. I mean, the transfer market's ridiculous now. So £2.5 million for a solid Championship player with years ahead of him in his career, not that bad, really.
And finally, how much are you going to miss his posh voice after interviews?
Not at all.
Not at all.
It reminds me of himself.
What?
I said it reminds you of yourself, doesn't it?
Nah, how born and bred I am.
To be fair, it is quite funny because, like, especially for us around here, we're common as much. So when he signed for us, and obviously he was doing his sort of announcement video, and it didn't suit like the club at all.
I don't really. He must have had, but I don't really remember any other Hull player having a posh accent before, from the south or the north or anywhere. No, it's weird.
That's something to research on there. Thank you very much, both of you. Both of you boys. Thank you so much for coming on. Do you want to just plug the Two On and Back podcast very quickly? I don't know.
And you do it.
All right. So we are obviously primarily a Hull City-based podcast, but we do opposition previews for other fans. So if you are a Bristol fan and you're interested in hearing, obviously, perspective from the other side and previews and such, we are worth a follow in that sense. But you can find us on YouTube for video content, and then audio-wise, we're on all your usual podcast providers, your Apple, Spotify, etc. And then obviously Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
Yeah, and they're normally very good listen or watch, so I would definitely recommend it. And they're good guys over there as well. So I've been on their channel quite a few times. So definitely, all the links will be in the description down below. So no need to make that effort of searching anything up if you're lazy like me. Thank you very much, Ant and Nathaniel, for coming on. And hopefully this Scott Twine thing works out, because otherwise I'll be left with egg on my face after all the excitement I've got on Twitter. Thank you very much, both of you, and hope you have a good rest of the season. And I'll see you all very soon. Cheers for watching, and I'll catch you later. Cheers.